From real slaps that left bruises to biblical blunders and a director's tragic fate, this hip-hop comedy hides bizarre secrets behind every cameo-packed scene. Discover the unexpected connections, on-set chaos, and strange trivia that transformed two MTV hosts into accidental movie stars. Fact 1. Ed Lover actually got slapped for real. When you watch Who's the Man, there's a scene where Ed Lover's character gets slapped by female rappers, and if it looks painfully realistic, that's because it absolutely was. Ed Lover made the decision to let Salt-N-Pepa's Peppa and rapper Yo-Yo actually slap him during filming, insisting that fake slaps wouldn't look convincing enough on camera. He wanted the audience to feel the impact of those moments, and he believed the only way to achieve that authenticity was to take real hits. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision either. Ed Lover specifically requested that the actresses not hold back, understanding that pulling punches would make the scene look staged and unconvincing. The result is one of the most memorable and cringe-inducing moments in the film, where viewers can practically feel the sting themselves. Ed Lover later talked about this choice in interviews, explaining that as a first-time actor, he wanted to commit fully to making the comedy work, even if it meant enduring some genuine pain. The slaps left visible marks and caused real discomfort, but he considered it worth the sacrifice for the sake of the film's comedic impact. This kind of dedication to physical comedy was somewhat unusual for the early 1990s, especially in a hip-hop comedy where most of the cast were musicians rather than trained actors. What makes this even more interesting is that both Peppa and Yo-Yo were initially hesitant to actually hit him, concerned about hurting their co-star, but Ed Lover kept insisting until they agreed to deliver real slaps for the camera. Fact 2. Terrence Howard's secret film debut. Before Terrence Howard became a household name with roles in Hustle and Flow, Crash, and Iron Man, he made his very first appearance on the big screen in Who's the Man? And most people who watched the film in 1993 had absolutely no idea they were witnessing the debut of a future Oscar-nominated actor. Howard's role in the movie was extremely small, essentially a blink-and-you-miss-it cameo that barely registers unless you're specifically looking for him. He appears without any significant dialogue or character development, just another face in the background of this hip-hop-packed comedy. At the time of filming, Terrence Howard was a completely unknown actor trying to break into the industry, and landing even this tiny role in a New Line Cinema production was a significant opportunity. It would be years before he started getting more substantial parts that would showcase his dramatic talents. His breakthrough wouldn't come until the late 1990s and early 2000s, when he began appearing in films like The Best Man, and eventually earned critical acclaim for his performance in Hustle and Flow, which brought him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor in 2006. Looking back at Who's the Man now, knowing what Terrence Howard would go on to accomplish, makes his appearance feel like a time capsule moment, capturing a future star before anyone recognized his potential. The film served as a launching pad for his career in the most modest way possible, giving him his first film credit and experience working on a professional movie set. Fact 3. Director Ted Demme was Jonathan Demme's nephew. Who's the Man was directed by Ted Demme, and while his last name might sound familiar to film fans, that's because he was the nephew of Jonathan Demme, the acclaimed director who won the Academy Award for Best Director for The Silence of the Lambs just 2 years earlier in 1991. This family connection to one of Hollywood's most respected directors gave Ted a certain pedigree in the industry, but he was determined to make his own mark with a completely different style of filmmaking. While his uncle Jonathan was known for psychological thrillers and serious dramatic work, Ted Demme chose to make his feature film directorial debut with a hip-hop buddy cop comedy, showing that he wanted to carve out his own identity rather than simply follow in his famous uncle's footsteps. Before directing Who's the Man, Ted Demme had built his reputation working in television, particularly with MTV, where he had directed episodes of Yo MTV Raps, which is actually how he became connected with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre in the first place. His experience working with hip-hop artists and understanding that culture made him the perfect choice to helm this project, even though it was his first time directing a theatrical feature film. The Demme name certainly opened some doors, but Ted brought his own vision and sensibility to the project, focusing on capturing the energy and authenticity of early 90s hip-hop culture in a way that felt genuine rather than exploitative. His approach to filmmaking was more grounded and street level compared to his uncle's more polished Hollywood productions, reflecting the different worlds they were each trying to capture on screen. Fact 4. A biblical scripture gets misquoted. There's a moment in Who's the Man where a character quotes what sounds like an ominous biblical prophecy, saying, "Every man's sword will be against his brother," and then confidently attributes this scripture to the book of Daniel. The problem is that this attribution is completely wrong, and anyone familiar with their Bible would immediately catch the error. The actual verse comes from Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 21, not from the book of Daniel at all. This kind of mistake might seem minor, but for viewers who know their scripture, it's a glaring continuity error that pulls you right out of the scene. What makes this particularly interesting is that it's unclear whether the misattribution was intentional as part of the character's personality, suggesting they were someone who pretended to know the Bible better than they actually did, or if it was simply a mistake made by the screenwriters that nobody caught during production. Given that Who's the Man was made quickly on a relatively modest budget with a first-time feature director and a cast mostly made up of musicians rather than experienced actors, it's entirely possible that this biblical error just slipped through the cracks during the writing and filming process. The verse from Ezekiel is actually part of a prophecy about God bringing judgment against Gog, and it's a fairly well-known passage among people who study biblical prophecy, which makes the misattribution even more noticeable to certain audience members. Whether intentional or accidental, this scriptural mix-up has become one of those small details that fans of the movie have noticed and discussed over the years, adding to the film's collection of odd quirks and peculiarities. Fact 5. The film features a complete music performance. Most movies that include musical performances will only show brief snippets or edited versions of songs, cutting away before the track finishes to keep the story moving forward. But Who's the Man takes a completely different approach with Naughty by Nature's performance of Hip Hop Hooray. The film actually includes the entire song performed in full, uninterrupted from beginning to end, which was an unusual choice for a narrative feature film in 1993. This decision to let the performance play out completely shows how much the filmmakers wanted to honor the hip-hop culture they were representing, treating the music not just as background flavor, but as an essential element of the film's identity. Hip Hop Hooray was one of the biggest hip-hop hits of 1993, reaching number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and becoming an anthem that defined the era. So giving it this much screen time was a way of acknowledging its cultural significance. The full performance essentially functions as a mini music video embedded within the movie, allowing audiences to experience the energy and excitement of a live Naughty by Nature show. This approach was more common in concert films or documentaries, but rare in scripted comedies, making Who's the Man stand out as a film that genuinely celebrated hip-hop, rather than just using it as window dressing. Director Ted Demme's background working on Yo MTV Raps likely influenced this decision, as he understood that hip-hop fans would appreciate getting to see a complete performance rather than just quick cuts and samples. The scene has become one of the most memorable moments in the film, capturing a specific moment in hip-hop history when Naughty by Nature was at the peak of their popularity. Fact 6. Colin Quinn and Ken Ober's MTV connection. Colin Quinn plays a character named Frankie in Who's the Man, and his casting represents an interesting MTV connection that goes beyond the obvious link to Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. Before Colin Quinn became famous as a cast member on Saturday Night Live, and later as the host of Comedy Central's Tough Crowd, he appeared on MTV's game show Remote Control, which was hosted by Ken Ober. What makes this connection even more interesting is that Ken Ober also appears in Who's the Man, playing a small but memorable role as a police geologist who gets called to the crime scene. So you have two people who work together on Remote Control now reuniting in this hip-hop comedy, though they don't actually share any scenes together in the film. Remote Control was one of MTV's earliest and most successful original programs, running from 1987 to 1990, and it helped launch the careers of several comedians, including Colin Quinn, Adam Sandler, and Dennis Leary. The show was a pop culture trivia game show that perfectly captured the irreverent, youth-oriented spirit of MTV during that era, making it a training ground for comedians who would go on to bigger things. By 1993, when Who's the Man was being filmed, both Colin Quinn and Ken Ober were looking to transition from television into movies, and this film gave them that opportunity. The MTV connection made perfect sense, given that the film's stars, Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, were the hosts of Yo! MTV Raps, so the production essentially became a reunion of sorts for various MTV personalities from the late 80s and early 90s. This web of connections shows how Who's the Man served as a bridge between MTV's television programming and Hollywood filmmaking. Fact 7. Filmed in just 6 weeks. The entire production of Who's the Man was shot in just 46 days, running from November 2nd to December 18th in 1992, which is an incredibly tight schedule for a feature film, even by low-budget comedy standards. To put this in perspective, most Hollywood comedies take anywhere from 2 to 3 months to film, and that's not counting pre-production or post-production time. The decision to shoot so quickly was partly due to budget constraints, as New Line Cinema wasn't investing blockbuster money into this hip-hop comedy with first-time lead actors, but it also reflected the energetic, guerrilla-style approach that director Ted Demme brought from his work in television. Filming took place entirely on location in Harlem and various other parts of New York City, which added authenticity to the movie but also created logistical challenges that had to be solved quickly. Shooting on real city streets means dealing with weather, crowds, noise, permits, and countless unpredictable variables that can slow down production. Yet somehow the crew managed to stay on schedule and complete everything in under 7 weeks. This rapid filming schedule required everyone involved to work long hours and make quick decisions without the luxury of extensive rehearsals or multiple takes for every scene. The cast, many of whom were musicians with no formal acting training, had to learn their craft on the fly while keeping pace with the demanding production schedule. Despite these time constraints, the film manages to capture an authentic slice of early 90s New York hip-hop culture, suggesting that the quick shoot may have actually helped preserve a raw, spontaneous energy that might have been lost with a more drawn-out production process. Fact 8. Ed Lover created the original story. Who's the Man didn't start as a studio pitch or a screenplay written by professional screenwriters trying to capitalize on hip-hop culture. Instead, the original story idea came directly from Ed Lover himself, who conceived the basic concept and then developed it together with his Yo! MTV Raps co-host Dr. Dre before they ever approached anyone in Hollywood. This origin story is significant because it means the film came from inside hip-hop culture, rather than being imposed upon it by outsiders looking to make a quick profit. Ed Lover and Dr. Dre took their initial concept to their manager, who recognized its potential and successfully sold it to New Line Cinema, the studio that had found success with urban-oriented films and was looking for projects that could tap into the growing hip-hop audience. The fact that Ed Lover was involved from the very beginning as the creative originator gave the project an authenticity that it might not have had otherwise, even though professional screenwriters were eventually brought in to turn the concept into a workable screenplay. This was during a period in the early 1990s when hip-hop was transitioning from an underground cultural movement into a mainstream commercial force, and having actual hip-hop personalities driving the creative process was still relatively rare in Hollywood. Ed Lover's involvement ensured that the film would feel like it was made for hip-hop fans by people who genuinely understood and respected the culture, rather than being another exploitation film trying to profit from a trend without understanding it. The story of two barbers who become police officers may not have been the most original premise in the world, but it came from a genuine place of wanting to create a comedy that would resonate with the Yo! MTV Raps audience. Fact 9. Bernie Mac's early film role. Who's the Man features Bernie Mac in one of his first major movie roles, years before he became a household name through The Bernie Mac Show and his appearances in the Ocean's 11 franchise. At the time of filming in 1992, Bernie Mac was a working stand-up comedian grinding it out on the comedy club circuit, and getting cast in a New Line Cinema production was a significant step forward in his career. Ed Lover has talked in interviews about how Bernie Mac completely transformed the atmosphere on set, making everyone around him laugh constantly between takes with his natural comedic timing and larger-than-life personality. Even though Bernie Mac's role in the film isn't enormous, he makes every second of his screen time count, delivering his lines with the same energy and charisma that would later make him a star. The cast and crew apparently looked forward to scenes with Bernie Mac because they knew he would bring something special, often improvising and riffing in ways that went beyond what was written in the script. This kind of natural talent is something you can't teach, and it was already fully formed in Bernie Mac even at this early stage of his film career. What's particularly interesting is that Who's the Man captured Bernie Mac during that transitional period when he was still primarily known as a stand-up comedian, but was beginning to make inroads into television and film. It would be nearly a decade before the original Kings of Comedy documentary in 2000 would make him a star, followed by his own television show that would run for 5 seasons. Looking back at his performance in Who's the Man, you can see all the elements that would later make Bernie Mac such a beloved figure in comedy. Fact 10. Big Pussy. Before The Sopranos, Vincent Pastore appears in Who's the Man, and while his role is relatively small, it's worth noting that this came 5 years before he would become famous as Salvatore Big Pussy Bonpensiero on The Sopranos, one of the most iconic characters in television history. In 1993, when Who's the Man was released, Pastore was a working character actor who had appeared in various small roles but hadn't yet found the part that would make him a recognizable face to millions of viewers. The Sopranos wouldn't premiere on HBO until January of 1999, so at the time of filming Who's the Man, nobody had any idea that Vincent Pastore would eventually become so closely associated with organized crime television drama. His appearance in this hip-hop comedy shows the diverse range of projects that character actors take on while building their careers, moving between different genres and types of productions wherever they can find work. Pastore had been acting since the 1980s, mostly in small film and television roles, often playing Italian-American characters that drew on his own New York background and natural presence. The fact that he appears in Who's the Man alongside Bernie Mac, Terrence Howard, and dozens of hip-hop artists demonstrates how this film served as an intersection point for various performers who would go on to greater fame in different areas of entertainment. When The Sopranos made Vincent Pastore a star, giving him one of the show's most memorable and tragic character arcs, audiences who had seen Who's the Man could look back and spot him in this earlier role, creating one of those fun, "I know that guy from somewhere" moments that film fans enjoy. Fact 11. Over 50 hip-hop artists made cameos. Who's the Man features cameo appearances from more than 50 hip-hop artists, which was an absolutely staggering number for any film in 1993. And remains one of the largest assemblies of rap talent ever captured in a single movie. This wasn't just a handful of token appearances to add credibility. The film is packed from beginning to end with recognizable faces from the hip-hop world, turning it into a time capsule of who was relevant and important in rap music during the early 1990s. The list of artists who appear includes Queen Latifah, Run DMC, Ice-T, Flavor Flav, Criss Cross, Heavy D, EPMD, Pharcyde, House of Pain, Cypress Hill, leaders of the New School, and many others, representing different styles and regions within hip-hop culture. Some of these appearances are brief walk-ons, while others involve more substantial scenes, but collectively they create an atmosphere that feels genuinely connected to the hip-hop community, rather than manufactured by Hollywood outsiders. Ed Lover and Dr. Dre's connections through Yo MTV Raps made it possible to recruit this many artists, as they had spent years building relationships with virtually everyone who mattered in hip-hop. The film essentially functions as a snapshot of a specific moment in hip-hop history, capturing artists at various stages of their careers, some on their way up and others already established as legends. This concentration of talent in one production has rarely been matched since, making Who's the Man unique, not just as a comedy, but as a cultural document. The cameos serve a purpose beyond just celebrity spotting, though. They help create a world where hip-hop isn't just the soundtrack, but the actual fabric of everyday life in the neighborhoods where the story takes place. Fact 12. Criss Cross played neighborhood bullies. The teenage rap duo Criss Cross appears in Who's the Man, playing neighborhood bullies, and true to their signature style, they wear their clothes backwards throughout their scenes, maintaining the unique fashion statement that made them famous in the first place. Criss Cross, consisting of Chris Mac Daddy Kelly and Chris Daddy Mac Smith, had exploded onto the music scene in 1992 with their hit song, Jump, which topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 weeks and made them the youngest rap duo to achieve that level of success. Their gimmick of wearing all their clothes backwards, including jeans, shirts, and even baseball caps, became their trademark look that kids across America tried to imitate, making them perfect for a cameo appearance that audiences would immediately recognize. What makes their casting as bullies particularly interesting is that it goes against their usual wholesome, playful image, giving them a chance to play slightly antagonistic characters rather than just appearing as themselves. Even while playing these neighborhood tough guys, they don't abandon the backwards clothing style that defined their brand, creating an amusing contrast between trying to be intimidating while dressed in such an unconventional way. By the time Who's the Man was filming in late 1992, Criss Cross was at the absolute peak of their fame, making their appearance a significant get for the production and adding to the film's credibility with younger hip-hop fans. Their involvement also highlights how Who's the Man was specifically designed to capture a moment in hip-hop culture when young artists were breaking through and bringing fresh energy to the genre, not just featuring established veterans. Fact 13. Opened at number 2 box office. Despite being a low-budget comedy starring 2 MTV hosts with no previous acting experience and directed by a first-time feature filmmaker, Who's the Man opened at number 2 at the box office during its opening weekend, which exceeded everyone's expectations for what this kind of film could achieve commercially. The movie went on to gross over $11 million domestically, which might not sound impressive by today's blockbuster standards, but for a modestly budgeted hip-hop comedy released in April of 1993, it represented a solid success that proved there was a significant audience hungry for this type of entertainment. The film's strong opening performance demonstrated that the hip-hop audience would show up for movies that felt authentic and respectful to their culture, especially when the people making the film actually came from within that culture rather than being Hollywood outsiders trying to cash in. New Line Cinema had taken a calculated risk by greenlighting this project with unproven lead actors, but the box office returns validated their decision and showed that Ed Lover and Dr. Dre's popularity from Yo! MTV Raps could translate into theatrical ticket sales. What makes this box office performance even more impressive is that Who's the Man wasn't released with the massive marketing campaigns that major studios typically deploy for their tentpole releases. Instead, it relied heavily on word of mouth within the hip-hop community and the built-in audience that Ed Lover and Dr. Dre had cultivated through their MTV work. The success of Who's the Man helped pave the way for other hip-hop-oriented films throughout the 1990s, proving to studios that there was commercial viability in making movies specifically targeted at that demographic. Fact 14. Director's tragic death. 9 years later, Ted Demme, who directed Who's the Man as his feature film debut, died tragically young at just 38 years old in January of 2002 while playing in a celebrity basketball game in Santa Monica, California. He suffered a heart attack on the court and was pronounced dead at the hospital, and the subsequent autopsy revealed that he had cocaine in his system at the time of his death, though the exact role it played in causing the heart attack remains a subject of discussion. This shocking death cut short the career of a filmmaker who had shown tremendous promise, having gone on from Who's the Man to direct well-regarded films like Beautiful Girls and the Johnny Depp drug trafficking drama Blow. Ted Demme had successfully transitioned from his MTV roots to become a respected Hollywood director, proving that his debut with Who's the Man wasn't just a fluke, but the beginning of a genuine filmmaking career. His death sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, with many of the actors and musicians he had worked with over the years expressing their grief and sharing memories of his talent and generosity. The circumstances surrounding his death, particularly the presence of cocaine, added a tragic dimension to his story, raising questions about the pressures and temptations that come with working in the entertainment industry. Looking back at Who's the Man, knowing how Ted Demme's life would end, makes the film feel bittersweet. A document of a young director full of energy and creativity who would never get the chance to reach his full potential or enjoy a long career. Fact 15. Billed as first hip-hop whodunit. Who's the Man marketed itself as the first hip-hop whodunit, creating a genre classification that had never existed before, and interestingly enough, has never really been replicated or challenged by another movie since its release in 1993. This genre label was an attempt to position the film as something more than just another buddy cop comedy, emphasizing both its hip-hop cultural roots and its mystery plot involving the investigation of a murder in the neighborhood. The whodunit element refers to the film's central mystery about who killed a local shop owner, which drives the plot forward as Ed Lover and Dr. Dre's characters attempt to solve the crime after becoming police officers. Whether Who's the Man actually delivers on the promise of being a true whodunit is debatable, as the mystery elements are often overshadowed by the comedy and the parade of hip-hop cameos, but the marketing label was clever in making the film sound unique and different from other comedies being released at the time. The fact that no other film has really claimed this particular genre space in the 3 decades since is fascinating, suggesting that Who's the Man occupies a singular position in cinema history as the only movie that genuinely tried to blend hip-hop culture with traditional murder mystery storytelling conventions. While there have been many other films featuring hip-hop artists and music and plenty of whodunit mysteries, the specific combination attempted by Who's the Man remains largely unexplored territory. This genre distinction has become part of the film's legacy, a quirky claim to fame that sets it apart from the countless other comedies of the 1990s and gives it a unique identity in film history.